to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a phenomenal brother that I had the chance to connect with across social media lines just recently. This brother is a man of many talents. He is a father, a mentor, a podcast host, entrepreneur, barber, author, and so much more. But most importantly, his biggest and most greatest title of all is he's a man of God. And he's taking time out of his very busy schedule to hang out with us this evening to share a little bit of his story, a little bit of his journey with the hopes of inspiring and encouraging and uplifting others, especially when it comes to dealing with the adversities and challenges in life. So it is my privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen, to have our special guest with us this evening, Mr. Jonathan Mayo. Jonathan, thank you so
Hey,
much for being on the show.
how y'all doing today? I'm good. Let's go. Let's go.
Uh,
I'm ready. Let's
All
go.
right. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. My brother, thank you so much again for taking time out to be with us. But
Yes.
before we get into our segments for this evening, I do want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit of something about yourself. You know, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Kind of give our audience a taste of who is Jonathan Mayo.
Hey, I'm a barber. Everybody call me JP, but
Okay.
I'm a barber, man. I've been cutting about 13 years now, and I'm just a man of God on purpose, just doing what God called me to do, and just trying to be the best version of myself and help people be inspired by what I do. I'm all about execution, but also speaking life into people, but also too while I'm speaking, listening to people and what they're trying to do, what they're trying to go and help them. To encourage them to where they're trying to go, and if I need to do something, I will do it to help them the best way I can. Whether it means cut their hair a certain way, or have a listening ear, or talk to them. Growing up, I grew up in a place where I had a single mom. She wasn't there as much. My dad wasn't there as much, but I try to navigate through these certain things with them. But also too, it helped me become the man I am today. And also having a daughter, she has shaped and molded me. And also being in two marriages has changed my life too. So yeah.
All right, all right. Well, I appreciate you sharing that intro about yourself. And again, we're going to learn a whole lot more about you tonight. So, again, I'm excited to hear this story that you got to share. I've had a chance to tap in a little bit on some of the things that you're doing. So, to my audience, you're not going to be disappointed. This brother is truly a man of God, and he's doing his thing. He's allowing God to use him in a mighty way. So, this is what we're all about here. And that's why I'm glad that we were able to make the connection and bring him on board. So, without any further delay, let's go ahead and jump on into this, man. As with all my guests that I bring on the show, one of the things that I like to do is to take a few moments, if you will, to reflect on the starting point of where our journey comes from. Because I really do believe that early on in life, as far back as our childhood, that a lot of things that go on in our coming up, whether it's people that we meet or certain events that take place in our lives, we may not necessarily understand why those things are happening at the moment in time. But as you get older and as you find yourself walking in your purpose, you begin to start to connect the dots. You begin to
Yeah.
kind of see why things had to play out the way that they had to play out in order for you to become the man that you've become in this particular case. So with that said, if you would tell us, kind of take us back to the beginnings for your story and tell us what was it like for you growing up, fond memories that you have about growing up, as well as if there's any particular challenges that you'd like to share, you can do that as well. Kind of give us the foundational basis of where your story begins.
I think my challenges was growing up. It was me being, of course, a black male, but also me being a man. Period. That was already challenging anyway. Of course, low income family, single parent home. Me going through the things of being picked on, trying to navigate through life, like feeling like I'm going through it alone by myself. So it came to the point where um, I wanted to fit in. So me trying to fit in, and like we do in this world in general, we try to fit in on our jobs, we try to fit in a career, or we trying to fit in whatever society is saying to us. And I've learned that I can't do that. So growing up, I was so busy trying to fit in with my group of friends at that time that I learned that especially in high school and middle school, we always trying to fit in and trying to figure our way out and trying to be with the just with your peers, and they don't even have time. They don't know what they're doing either. So we follow each other and we like, oh, I'm going here, I'm going there. It's like, okay. And then I learned By the time I got out of high school, I learned. I said, "Yo, I want to be different, but also too, I learned going through high school, navigating by those picking on me and all these things like that, and being depressed, being bogged down, trying to be with society and what they thought I should be." So I said, when I get out of high school, I said, everybody's going to be the same. Like, because you're either going to go to the military, you're going to go to college. You're not, because I was looking at the popular people in school because they was doing the same thing over and over, date the same people and all these things like that. I said, I'm not popular, but I was still different. But I was trying to fit myself in that bubble, what they was doing. But then when I figured it out, I said, when they get out of high school, they're not famous. They're not going to be rich. They're gonna be regular people trying to figure it out like I am. So once I figured out that, I said I'm ready to get out of high school, and I was more on trajectory of what I want to do and where I want to go in. Of course, along the road, I tried to figure out like work jobs and different things, but found my purpose though along the way. So yeah,
Awesome, awesome. Well, let me first start off by saying I appreciate your transparency in what you've shared so far because you hit a few very critical points of conversation. In fact, a conversation I was just having yesterday with some other brothers
mm-hmm.
about the challenge, as you stated, of being not just being a black man, but just being a
Yeah,
man in general. Because
yeah,
you know God created men to be basic to be not only productive in life but to be leaders.
yeah,
And so even as a young boy growing up, as you stated, it can be very challenging trying to find, where exactly do I fit into the mix of things, and and like I said, you face things like possibly getting picked on.
yeah,
You struggle with, what happens when I'm a young man who is feeling some emotions, and I want to
yeah,
share
yeah.
that,
You're right
but
about that.
I'm scared to do it because
Yeah, yeah,
we as men, and definitely as black men, many of us were told that, to
yeah.
be emotional, to show feelings was a
Yes.
sign of weakness, and
Yeah.
so we hold it in,
Right.
and then if we don't line up with what everybody else is doing around us, we feel like an outsider. But
Right.
this is why, again, I like to have this conversation, because when I think about what you do today, the fact that you are a man of God, the fact that you are walking in your purpose, there was a reason why you didn't feel like you fit in. And it wasn't
Yeah.
because you were strange or
Mm-hmm.
odd or weird. It was because you were being set apart at a
Right.
very early age, because God was already laying down the groundwork
Mm-hmm.
for what he had for you moving up. Again, as a 6, 7, 8 year old or high school, we're not thinking about those kind of things, but
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
already years ahead of us
Yeah.
laying the groundwork. And so, to any other men who are tuning into this and wondering, why don't I fit in? Why did I always feel like a sort of an outsider, or like the awkward one in the space, or
Mm-hmm.
where I didn't have the popularity, if you will,
Yeah.
but I still felt like I had something to offer and just didn't know quite what to do. That's not by accident.
Yeah.
That is oftentimes a
Mm-hmm.
divine design of who you are, and how, again, God is trying to position you. But it just takes time to build that confidence up. It takes time for you to just really to fully understand it and embrace, to where when it is time God to fully reveal it to you, and for you to take that leap of faith, for you to take those steps in that direction, then now all of a sudden it starts to connect. The light bulbs start to come
Yeah.
on. And you're like, okay, now
Mm-hmm.
now it kind of makes sense
Right.
why I felt like I did, because I totally identify with like what you said, in the sense of like, I jokingly tell people, I was one of those kids who I was never popular enough to be popular, but I was never nerdy enough to be a nerd either. So
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of like, he was kind of in the middle. And
In
when
the
you're in that
middle. Yeah.
middle, in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
cloudy spot, that
Yeah.
blurred
Yeah.
spot, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
And if you're not careful, depending upon who the circle of people who are
Mm-hmm. The
around you,
environment.
like you
Yep.
said, that environment, that whole quote unquote fitting in thing, can lead you to fitting into some things that are not intended for you to be fitting into.
I'm gonna
And
say this.
so,
I'm gonna say this. I
yes, go ahead.
remember. I'm gonna say this. I remember being in middle school, and I wanted to fit in so bad. Like the guy. It was a guy that was picking on me so bad. I was in middle school. I mean, he picking on me so bad to the point, like I literally, and I never really told this story as much, but the guy was picking on me so bad, and the whole class and all these things, they laughing and joking. I literally, like, I went with my dad for the weekend or whatever, and he had like a pocket knife, and I brought it to school, and it was so bad to the point I really wanted to like stab this guy. Like, he was picking on me so bad, and it's like, yo, I'm like, Lord, why me? Why is he picking on me?
Mhm.
Why is he
Mhm.
like? Why do he want after me? Why did this guy want to pick me out of everybody else? And I just moved to the city too, so, and it's predominantly a black school. So I'm thinking these my people, da da da. But they was picking on me so bad, and I literally like. But I ended up going to like an alternative school and stuff. But I got good and straight after that. But I say the reason why I say that is because um, I was that guy. Like, it's a lot of guys out there that's different, but at the same time they don't know where they fit it. But things like that do happen, and it's not saying that they want to do something to somebody else. It's just like they don't feel seen and heard at that time.
Mhm.
And maybe they got home or bringing stuff home from school. Because I know what I did was my mom. I was like my mom in-house husband at the time. I mean, she was going through divorce and different things like that. And while I was doing that, I'm trying to navigate. She just got finished. Think about it. She just got finished fussing me out. I'm going away to school, and I got her in my head, and she saying you this and that, and I'm going to school, and they picking on me and put it all together. That's a whole explosion right there, and I can't even
Mhm.
come to school and feel safe and feel heard. And these guys are jumping on me and stuff, and then all of a sudden I got to defend myself, and then I'm doing this cycle year after year after year. Something got to give. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So, and that hurts. That hurts a person's soul. That's why guys or people they go to pills, go to depression, go to smoking weed because they need a way of escape.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, everything that you're speaking to is not truth, but not enough people hear that, and as men, we don't oftentimes talk about these type of things, but these are very real things. Mental health is a very real thing, especially with
mm-hmm,
men. There's a lot of men who are dealing with trauma, like you stated, that goes back as far as being a little kid, and just even when you pointed out about growing up in a single parent household and having moments where you felt like you had to take on other roles than just being a
mm-hmm,
kid. Like you made the reference specifically, you just said about being an in-house husband, and I don't want people to miss that. But I totally caught what you said with that because, sometimes when when you're in that single parent household and mom is the one that's running the home,
mm-hmm,
the absence of the father
yeah,
can at times put an extra pressure, whether mom's intended to be or not.
mm-hmm,
You kind of feel like now you kind of feel pressure to have to be the quote unquote man of the house, but that's not your role to be in. You're just trying to
mm-hmm,
be a kid trying to figure things out. But if you feel like I got to be the man in terms of a provider, I got to be the man in terms of a comforter, like husband, like not necessarily in a sexual way, but just
right,
I got to be that, and then I got to also not only do I have to support in that regard, but then I'm also by default I'm also the whipping post. So if
yeah,
mom is in a mood,
mm-hmm,
and she coming
mm-hmm,
to me for
yeah,
stuff that maybe ain't even it's not even an issue that I'm even supposed to be having this conversation with you about, but I'm having to
yeah,
take the brunt of it all because of maybe whatever's going on in mom's life, or just whether it's the pressures of money or other stressors or things like that. So when you talk about that safe space, if I don't feel like I got a safe space at home, and then I go to school and I don't feel like that space is safe either, then where do I get the safety at? Where is my comfort at? Where is my protection at? I don't feel safe either. I go from one stressful situation to
mm-hmm,
another and then return. It's just a cycle. And as you said, at some point, I can only hold in so much before I explode. And in that explosion, what does that explosion look like? I'm
right,
either and for many of us, that explosion could mean harming someone else,
mm-hmm,
or quite frankly, in many cases, it could mean harming ourselves, whether
mm-hmm,
it's going to the extreme of taking our lives, or if it's going to the extreme of just dealing with, the things like you said, like depression and anxiety and just,
substance
you know,
abuse, yeah,
yeah, just or substance abuse and things like that, things that are we're acting out, but we don't have we go to toxic things to find our safety because
mm-hmm,
that we don't know anything else to go to because we haven't had that environment to be in. It's the absence of the safe space. So that's why it's so important for all the listeners to understand, men and women alike, that men hurt too. men hurt too. The men are very emotional. We go through stuff. We have a lot of weight on our shoulders, a lot of
Yeah,
pressure, and that's not to complain or whine or anything
yeah,
like that or play victim. It's just the reality. There's a
yeah.
lot to being a young man. Definitely a
And I'm
lot
gonna
to
say
being a
this
young
too.
black man. So
I want to
yeah.
say this too. It's hard to say. You can't like. It's kind of like because how I know you probably tested this too. They say, well, um, don't tell a man don't be emotional. So that's a lot. How can I not be emotional? Express my emotions. How can I not express my emotions? Then my mom fussing at me. Then I'm going to school and picked on. Where is that going to go at? Where is that
Right.
really going to go at? So I have no choice but to slow. That's why I believe every boy or woman, but every man and woman, they have a little boy, a little woman inside of them, and they can be grown, but they still can have that child that never got nurtured, that never got cared for, never
Mm-hmm.
got seen or heard. So then that's why you see a lot of men, women too, but I would say men that are in prison and in jail because they acting out now.
Mm-hmm.
They 30, 40, 50 years old, but they acting out now because that little boy never got checked or he never controlled his emotions. You gotta think about when you see a 5 or 6 year old as a child, he up there, he mad and angry, he all on the floor, and he yelling and screaming. He just want to be seen and heard. He want mama to nurture him, want daddy to see him. But then think
Mm-hmm.
about it. Then when you get older and you doing that, they like, nah, you too old for that. But no, it's just that little boy crying inside of you.
Exactly. All of that is just spot on. And again, thank you for your transparency and sharing as you have so far, and just really bringing some difficult conversations, but necessary conversations to have. We could have these conversations not only amongst the between the two of us, but with a whole bunch of other men, just that are feeling this exact same way, and not having that safe space to again to release.
Mm-hmm.
Not not absent that nurturing, not knowing what it feels like to be comforted, to truly be loved, to even hear the words,
Yeah,
that somebody loves them or that they care about them, and feel like that they mean it. Is it, all of those things tie into our psyche and how we operate it and how we make decisions in life, both as young boys and ultimately as men. And
right.
so it's definitely something that is critical in our lives, that if we don't if we're not surrounded by the right people and we don't have people in our corner that are nurturing and supportive of us, it can lead down a path of destruction. And it's unfortunate because we're talking about
Right.
a lot of bright, talented, gifted men who have the ability to be just pretty much anything that in this
Mm-hmm.
world, but yet without that emotional support, without that
Yeah,
mental support, and ultimately, not if he's a young man who doesn't know God and doesn't
yeah,
understand that that's
yeah.
ultimately where
Uh-huh.
his strength comes
Uh-huh.
from, ultimately where his encouragement comes from, ultimately where his support comes from, then he's out here just winging it on his own as best
Yeah.
as he knows how.
And you
It's
can
like
I'm gonna say this, so you could have something that happened to you at 6. And if you don't deal with it can affect you at 60.
absolutely, absolutely.
And you gotta think about when I talk about the emotional piece too, I could go to the Bible on this. You gotta think about this. Think about it. Before Jesus even went to the Garden of Gethsemane, what did he say? He said, well, God, take this cup from me. He was literally crying, and then on the cross, he even bled blood. That's a crazy death. And also, too, like he's crying. He said, "Take this cup from me." That's what we do too. Like, Lord, why? Why I gotta carry this on me? Why I gotta carry this on me? As men, why do I gotta carry this on me? And we'll cry and shed tears. And even with Judas, even though he betrayed Jesus, he gave him a kiss on the forehead. That's emotion. Even with Job, same thing. He was going through mental issues, and even in the midst of with Job, his wife said, "Well, curse God and die." He's like, man, I ain't got nobody now, and he lost
Right.
everything. He's like, even the closest, his wife was the closest thing to him to tell him curse God and die, and he know he had to make a decision to really hone into like God loves me even more, and that can be a tough situation when you're going through stuff because it's like, man, you think about the closest people that's closest to you, but they're telling you the opposite. They instead of embracing you and walking with you through the process.
Yes, yes. Everything that you said is just spot on, and like I said, that could be a whole nother show just talking about the challenges
Boy,
with this. But I'm glad you're bringing it up, and of course making the connection. Of course, how even in the biblical aspect of it, I mean, speaks to this very thing. So this is very real stuff, and again, I'm thankful that we're having this conversation. It's definitely a necessary conversation. So so my brother, obviously you've shared, what childhood was like, what it was like coming up, and some of the challenges that you faced, the whole fitting in and things of that nature. And as you know, even as you enter into adulthood, the challenges don't go away. In fact, they
hmm
come in more frequency, and in some days and times, they come at higher levels of intensity. And if we're being quite honest, you live long enough, every now and then you get hit with something in life that it is sort of a gut punch. It kind of knocks the wind out of you. There's a storm that will come down your path that when it hits, you don't see a way out. You feel helpless. You feel hopeless. This is not something you can throw some money at and make go away. It's not a favor that you can call in and make it go
they do
away.
that
And it's
one.
just you and this problem. You don't know what to do with it. So with that said, tell us about a time when you felt just like that. I'm facing something that seems insurmountable. I don't know how I'm going to get up out of this thing, how I'm going to get through it. This is weighing heavier on me than the normal day to day type of stuff that I deal with. Of course, you're here today to share the story, so we can trust God got you through. But maybe back then you had your doubts, you had your concerns. So if you would kind of walk us through what a time when you had an experience like that, and what was ultimately the turning point when you saw some light at the end of the tunnel and coming up out of that situation.
I'm gonna tell you the toughest. Ooh, this was a tough one. So I was married and divorced twice. So the first marriage I went through deep depression, went to the hospital, mental hospital, things like that. And I admitted myself in and I went. And so me and my ex was in there. I was getting well and I was getting healed. It took me a while to get myself. I was in there about 2 weeks. So I was going on my last leg of the next week, about Wednesday or something. Told her to come see me. I said, "Honey, baby, I'm getting healed. I'm getting straight, whatever the case may be. So can we kind of work this out?" So what she told me, she said no, and she sent me divorce papers while I was in there.
Mm,
So the toughest thing was for me to be like, okay, I still love her, but I got to move forward from this because it hurt me for her to send me divorce papers in there. Like while I'm in there, I'm like, I'm thinking we're going to try to work and get together. And I went through a deep depression too. Then the second one, same thing. Left, she did what she did, or whatever the case might be. I went through it. This was a deeper depression because this happened twice. So I'm like, oh, going through this again. So after that happened, what I did was I really honed into God, like my relationship with God. Instead of it being religion, I made it a relationship with Him.
mm-hmm.
I started speaking to Him, so I started hearing more. And while I was in that space, I wasn't dating, talking to nobody, nothing like that. I was honing to what my purpose, and God showed me my purpose. That's where my podcast came into play. That's where the book came into place. There's where this speaking. Now I'm like, okay, because God will show you your purpose in your pain. He
Mm-hmm.
will literally show it to you if you decide to sit down. Because sometimes you just got to be silent and listen to him. And what most people do when it comes to depression and stuff, or they don't want to be silent and listen to him. Because I literally had to. One business I did have, it was called my speaking business. It was Speak Life to Me. It's not no longer here, but it said Speak Life to Me, and that I literally had to speak to myself every single day. I had to say, Jonathan, you good, you straight, I love you, you're caring, you're nurturing, and I would read my word and different things like that. That helped me out a lot. But me speaking to myself, I said, Jonathan, you're cared for, you are loved, you are enough, and you're you are great, you are wonderful, you can get out of this. And I literally spoke myself out of the situation, out of the depression. And and two things, what's going to happen if you're depressed, you're either going to lose weight or gain weight. And I lost a lot of weight. So I mean, I looked bad. I mean, everything was messed up. But to a testament to God, I'm here today to tell my story. And I tell everybody, for me personally, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead. I'm supposed to be gone. I'm supposed to be just out of this world because I literally because I love them, the women so much, my ex-wife so much. I want to take myself out. That's I don't know if there's love or not, but that's how I feel. You know what I'm saying? So when you love somebody like that, that's what you feel you should do. But a testament to that, God took care of me through that process. So I like I give all my glory to Him because the way He got me through it, and it was nothing but His strength and grace and mercy. And then along the way, that's how I know it's nothing but Him. No, my mom, nobody was there at all. It was just nothing but me and God grinding it out. And then and because sometimes when you're separated, God will have everybody flee, everybody leave, so He can pour what He need to pour into you to bring you up
Hmm.
because you have a alignment and a purpose. So it made me be the best version of myself today, and that's all I can do now. That's why I got me speaking. Now I have a voice now. Before I didn't have no voice because I believe what the enemy wanted to do was kill me, so I won't be speaking now.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. Very powerful, man. And again, thank you for your transparency and sharing that. A few takeaways from this. First off, when it comes to the subject matter of divorce, I too have experienced that before, and and I'll tell anybody, if you've never experienced what a divorce is like, it's one of those things that I would not wish on my worst enemy because it's
Mm-hmm.
that emotionally and mentally taxing on a person, especially when when you're somebody who's gone into that marriage really wanting that marriage to work,
Yeah.
and not wanting to just give up on the first sign of trouble, the first sign of pressure or anything like that. And so, I appreciate you not only just sharing that you went through a divorce, but sharing the emotional piece of it and the mental piece of it was for you because I think another thing about divorce is a lot of times when we think about it, the first person that usually pops in your mind is typically the wife in the
Yeah.
divorce, and usually any conversation about the men in the divorce. And I'm not saying that this is always the case, but a lot of times conversation about men in a divorce is usually of a negative nature in the sense that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, he
Yeah.
must have been a cheater or he must
Yeah.
have been
Yeah.
an abuser or something like that. And again, this example is again a yet another example of how emotional men really are. That breakups. I would go as far as go on a limb and say that I think breakups can, in many cases, hurt men more than it does actually hurt a woman. But that's contradictory to what we've grown up
Yeah. Yeah.
into talking about. About you mean a
Mm-hmm.
man would be upset and he'd be crying and he'd be on experiencing depression and things like that because this girl don't want to be with him. He doesn't have a mindset of, oh, forget her, I'm just want to go on out and find me somebody else. Not all brothers is like that. I would say most of them are not like that.
Yeah.
And so I applaud you for again transparency and sharing that. And then I love the fact that you took it upon yourself to recognize that, hey, I'm not just sad about this, that this is a lot deeper, as far as what's going on, and for you to voluntarily take it upon yourself to be intentional in checking yourself in, to get help. That's you being proactive about your self care, you being proactive about your state of your mental health. Again, a lot of men wouldn't be, their pride would get in the way that would prevent them from making that move to going into checking themselves in to get the help that they need to process what is otherwise a very traumatic situation that they're dealing with. So that's just a reminder to anybody that's tuning in, particularly our men. um, hey, don't, if you've never had therapy or if you've never sought some type
Mm-hmm.
of
You need
therapeutic
Jesus and
assistance,
therapy.
don't
Jesus and therapy. Yeah.
yes, don't it's one of those things. Don't knock it till you try it. I
Yeah.
used to be for
Mm-hmm.
many years anti-therapy for a lot of for the reasons why a lot of us have been over the years, particularly in our culture, is that we oftentimes associated therapy as being for crazy people or that was
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
weak-minded and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. But it's so much deeper than that. And the first step is you acknowledging the fact that I can't do this by myself. And so not only did you take the steps in doing that, but in doing so, it also opened up the door for you to again get closer to God.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, as we shared earlier, ultimately He's our true strength, our true comforter. In difficult times. And this is why, when people might be tuning in and they hear some of these stories like this, and even to yourself, I'm sure you probably had moments in time where you're thinking to yourself, why is this happening to me? not only did it happen once, but it happened twice. Where did I go wrong? Am I being punished? Is this has God turned his back on me? Has he written me off? And it's really none of that. Sometimes what God will do, and I've had to learn the hard way, but sometimes what God will do is he will allow, and I want to emphasize the word allow. He will allow certain storms to come into our life, not because he's looking to torture you, not because he's looking to make your life miserable, but he has to sometimes allow certain storms to come through to shake up our world in a way that it forces you basically to acknowledge the fact that you cannot get through this unless you and him have that conversation, unless you and him get close. And so if he has to allow a storm to come through, or sometimes multiple ones to come through to get your attention, a relationship with you is that important to him that he's willing to let that happen, not to
Mm-hmm.
destroy you, but to get your focus back on him. And then once your eyes are focused on him, once your heart is open, once your ears are open to him, now he can pour into you. Now he can let you know, hey, I got so much in store for you, but you got to work with me. We got to be on the same page. We got to get close. We got to get tight. We got to have more conversations. You can't treat me as somebody that's sort of off in the distance, that you only check in whenever something, you need something. And then, or, you only talk to me when things are going rough. We need to have an ongoing active relationship with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all God did in your particular situation. Yeah, it hurts. It doesn't feel good. And I'm sure you wish things would have turned out better, whether it was in marriage one or marriage two. But nevertheless, God saw fit to allow that storm to come through because he wanted to build a relationship with you, because he had a purpose, as he does for all of us. He had a purpose for your life, and he didn't want you to miss out on that. So it started with you building that relationship, getting that thing in order so that he can begin to open up your eyes to seeing what he has in store for you. That, love is great, but he don't want us, chasing girls and thinking that that's the end of, that's our source of happiness, or chasing the bag and thinking that that's our source of happiness. Nothing wrong with love, nothing wrong with money. But as we know, you can't serve two masters. We serve a guy who wants to be number one. He wants to be the priority, and he has every right to be that because he created us and everything around us. So, again, man, appreciate your transparency and sharing it, and appreciate you, putting the pride aside, acknowledging the fact that I needed help, and taking full advantage of it, and getting
Yeah.
locked in with God the way that you got locked in what was otherwise one of your darkest moments in life, one of your darkest seasons. So that's a very powerful testimony, and appreciate your transparency with that.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So my brother, I'm curious to know, when you do, obviously you've shared some very heavy things, but as we know, sometimes the storms of life are heavy, like divorce and things of that nature. And then sometimes life is just life, and whether it's a car repair, whether it's a unexpected car repair, whether it's an unexpected financial commitment or what have you. Sometimes we just have things come across our way that we got to deal with, that are annoyances, but nevertheless it's before us. What I'm curious to know from you, however, is when you do find yourself facing challenging times, moments of adversity, whether it's something big or whether it is just those minor nuances in life, what is it that you personally like to do that kind of works for you? Your regiment, your routine, things that kind of help you to keep your mind locked in and focused as you're working through that challenging moment in time that you find yourself up against.
For me, I find stuff that I like to do. Normally, I will pray, I do breath work, I do therapy, or just have a regular good old conversation. I'll read sometimes, work out. Like, you just got to find things that you like to do. And the first thing I do in the morning is I be selfish in the morning. First thing I do is be selfish with me in the morning. While I'm praying, while I'm reading, while I'm going to run, I don't I don't deal with nobody else but me in the morning, because if you cannot pour from an empty cup,
Mm-hmm.
and you cannot, if you're not being um if you're not dealing with you first, you're not gonna be good for nobody else. Most people put, as soon as they wake up, they get on their phone, they're doing stuff for other people's kids and spouses, or whatever they have going on. That's the first thing they do, and you already poured out already, and you ain't even poured it in. And most people that you're dealing with, they can't even pour back into you. So now you gone all day or half the day, and you drain and you dry. And my motto has been two things I say when things get hard. Um, I say it two quotes, it's back and forth, but it's the same thing. God is good, it only gets better. And I would say life is good and it only gets better. So that's my quote I would say. So I have quotes and different things I would say too, because um, God, and then too, everything that I do, I make sure I bring God in the center of everything,
Mm.
and everything around it has to follow in that. So as soon as something happens, I'm like, Lord, let me be silent, let me listen, let me sit still in you, and I pray, and whatever this is, whether it's financial, whether it's mentally, emotional, I do my breath work, and I breathe, and while I'm breathing, I'm praying at the same time, meditating on Him, and whatever I might lead to the worship movie, music or whatever. I just give that 5-10 minutes of time for Him. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. I've literally been in a process where I've been in the middle of the chair, either cutting somebody or I'm not there. I'm literally doing breath work. I'm like breathing, like I gotta add God into this, and He's breathing on me. I'm like, okay, all right. Then I start saying my life is good, it only gets better. God is good, it only gets better. And I'm meditating on some scriptures or whatever it is. And now, okay, I now got my second win because I done poured something back into me. But the thing is, you got to get silent, and you gotta want it, but also too, you gotta really, 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 like, once I learned to, because what we do is sometimes when it comes to things of challenging at first, we don't add God in everything we do. It's only parts of it. It's like, okay, today I'm doing good financially, I'm killing it. But on my mental side, it's like, eh. But you want to add Him in everything, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, because He made us one body together. So you got to add Him in when I started adding Him everything I do, I mean every single thing, every single decision, every single move, every single um, even whatever I'm doing. If I'm doing a podcast, I'm praying. If I'm dealing with a woman, I'm praying. If I'm dealing with a relationship, I'm praying. I'm like, Lord, what is this? What you want me to do? How you want me to do? And even if it's the point you have to fast, I do that too, and do that periodically. That's what keeps me tuning to Him and listening to Him and what He's saying to me, regardless of what people say. Because we got a lot of noise out here, social media, listen to people, what they saying. You can be at work, they talking, but I hone into Him and really be silent with Him. He gonna talk. He gonna talk. He talk, and He's very loud. When you got to get quiet and silent and let Him talk to you, and He gonna tell you where to move and where you need to go and how you need to do things, and the very thing that you ask for, you got to prepare for it too, because you can't ask God that you want a whole financial blessing, or you want um, God to bring you this man or woman, and you ain't preparing for it. So that means you got to get quiet, you got to get
Mm.
silent, you got to let Him hear you. You hear Him, you talking to Him, He talking to you. Most time we got so many noise and distractions, we're not allowing Him to talk.
That's again, man. That is powerful. I love the array of things that you like to do to process through challenges and adversities. In your life. I think one of the things that stands out to me is the fact that you don't just speak exclusively to the moment. You are staying. In other words, you stay prepared. You stay ready for the storm. You're not waiting for the storm to happen and then trying to catch up to it. You acknowledge from the moment you open your eyes each morning. You have your routine, you have your process, and I think that's very critical to our listeners. If you don't currently have a routine or process that keeps you fully armored up, that gets you ready, to get you full. Even when you spoke about, you said, I start off the day making it about me. That to me is and I get this from my stepdad. He was the one who first exposed this line to me, what he referred to as healthy selfishness. There's a healthy selfishness that you got to practice, and part of that healthy selfishness is taking that time out to, like you said, to tap into God, whether it be in prayer, to have those talks, to do whatever it is that you need to do to get yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, prepared for your day.
Mm-hmm.
Ready for God to use you in whatever capacity that He's designed, that He's already laid out to be using you in. You want to be at full strength. You want to be at
Mm-hmm.
full capacity to be able to go in. I also like the fact that you brought up, because a lot of people are not aware of this, but I like the fact that you brought up how you incorporate breath work. A lot, if you're not familiar with that terminology, people are thinking, well, what is breathe? I mean, I breathe on my own. I just, there's an art to that. There's a craft in doing breath work, And it's something, to be honest with you, that I only learned about a few years back from a brother who he's actually a breath coach, and that's what he does. And when you really actually practice that and see what it feels like, it's invigorating, it's empowering. And like you said, even to you standing up there cutting some hair, and and taking that moment to do some breath work while you're doing that, to get that second wind, to make sure you can make it through the end of the day, so every customer that's sitting in before you is getting the best version of you,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what's going on in your life. And so, and to that's why it's so critical, as you stated, that God is in every single aspect of your life. When I commonly tag myself as a relationship strategist. And when I say that, I don't mean about, guys hooking up with girls. I'm talking about the relationship of God being in everything that you do, everything. And as you said, when you incorporate him in all components of your life, all decisions of your life, you're not gonna go wrong with that. He's gonna always, speak to you, give life to you in terms of what it is that you need to do and how you need to do it, so that it all plays out, not only to your benefit but to His glory, because
Mm-hmm.
you depended upon Him, you relied upon Him to see you through. Versus those moments when, as you know, and I know myself, when we try to do it, we try to fly solo and do our own
Yeah.
thing. That's when we tend to mess it up. That's when we tend to make it more complicated than it needed to be, because we try to make decisions leaving God out of the mix. And again, we can't just talk to him when stuff is
You
going
feel like
wrong.
it.
Even if everything is going wonderful in your life,
Yep.
you need to be having
Still, yeah.
that same energy of conversation that you have with him should be there, just as it would be if you down to your last dime and you don't know how you're gonna pay this bill or how you're gonna make this meal. That same energy that you give him then, you should be giving the same energy when he's blessing you in
Yeah.
all facets and forms. Because, yeah, as I say all the time, last time I checked, he's undefeated.
Yeah.
And I don't see him taking an L anytime soon. So, that's what we got. That's why we
I
got to
learned.
ride
I'm
with
gonna tell
him.
you a thing. A thing that I learned too. I learned gratitude, and through the whole process too. Learned gratitude of I saw really what God really wants us to do is have. He wants us to have His heart and His character. That's the biggest thing. Jesus wants to have His heart and His character. How we deal with people, how we treat ourselves, and how we deal with our family, friends, and things like that. And I think for me, I also do. I don't know if you heard of this too. It's called, I do grounding too. Sometimes I take my shoes off and I put my feet in the grass. And now when I do that, I look at it as me. Even though it's nature, or I might hug a tree too. I do that too. But it's really helping me get connected with God too, because He created it. He created the tree. He created the grass. He created the dirt. So now I'm literally connected with God on a whole nother level now. So I really do that too, and that has helped me too. Like I said, breathing, grounding, get in nature, and then I would say the biggest thing that I did was, it's really, especially if you're in a depressed state, get active. So when I was in my deepest dark depression, I told myself, I said, Lord, if my feet touch the ground, I started doing just push-ups. Every day I start off with one push-up, two push-ups, five push-ups, 10 push-ups. Now I'm up to 100 push-ups, and I can do them, of course, easy or whatever. But that's what got me moving. And while I'm doing, I'm speaking life to myself. I'm doing that's, I would say anybody do it, get moving. I know it's hard. I mean, you ain't even got to do this with anything. It's a process, but you got to just get started. It's like
Mhm.
it's starting at when you're running at a finish line. You're already in the race. That's the first part. You already in the environment. You already there. Now, while you're in the race, you got to get in position, and while you're in position, you get ready, set, start. Now you got to move. That's the thing. It's just moving. It don't matter how slow you go, how fast you go, but you're moving. Like I told my friend, he said, "Man, I want to lose weight." I said, I said, I didn't say it was easy, but I said it might be hard because you haven't done it. I said the thing is, what you got to do is the process. Think about the process of who you're going to become going into the process. I said, this is the thing, but I told him he didn't do. I said, before you even start, you got to get the mindset first. I said, this is what you do. Drive by the gym first. At least drive by and see the gym. Then next day, drive in the parking lot. At least dress up in the clothes like you going to the gym. Now you starting something. Then I said, after that, you do that. Now walk to the gym, open the door, go in there, just see what you ain't got to do nothing. Then I told him, I said, then go in there. Now you talking to people, and you because the biggest thing is get after you get through the process, you get in an environment now because the environment going to change you. It doesn't. That's even with God. You this is like when you go into church. Once you go in the parking lot, you go in there, then you get in the environment. It's like, oh, and it doesn't matter what was going on in your mind and heart. You like, yo, this has changed my life because you was open to it. But the thing is, most people are scared of the process. They're scared of going through. They're scared to go through the challenge because of what they've been through. But you're not alone in the process. God is with you, and while you're in that environment, it's gonna be people that's already there. Because once you like in the gym part, if you're in the gym, now you got people. Now you got a trainer. Now you got somebody help you along the way. Now somebody talking to you, coaching you, and now your family looking at you. Now you feeling healthy, you feeling good about yourself. But the thing is, while the process, keep doing it. Don't stop. You don't stop. You get better and better each time. That's the same thing with problem God. God is always teaching us something all the time. I listen to God all the time. He speak to my daughter. He speak through when I'm cutting hair. I'm dealing with God all the time. So that's why I put him in everything I do because I could be praying about something and he can speak through a flower. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh God, like anything. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that approach. I love, you saying, hey, it all begins with starting. Just get started. I think back to, and you and I can relate to this as podcasters, as authors. There was a point in time when, in order for us to get to that finish line, so to speak, we had to we had to get on a mic and reach out to a guest and just start with it. We had when we were writing our books, we
Mhm.
had to sit down and get the pen and paper out or get the laptop out and start typing, not worrying
Mhm.
about the flow of it and all. Just start
Can't worry
a
about it. Can't worry about it.
page and then the next page, and you can't worry about going on whatever the people are thinking about it. They might think you're crazy. What you mean you write a book? What you mean you're gonna do a podcast? What you mean you're gonna speak on a stage? You gotta just get started and take it. If it's got to be baby steps, take the baby steps and build and build and build and like you said, before you know it, you in the flow, you in the zone, and it becomes natural. And so to your analogy, day one you were doing one push up. You fast forward, now you're doing 100 without blinking. And you before you know it, you're like, how did I even get here? You're like,
Right.
what? Because you were consistent, because you stayed locked in, because you didn't allow yourself to get distracted, you didn't allow yourself to get out of the way, and you recognized ultimately, again, is that you weren't in it by yourself.
Yeah.
You weren't in it by even if nobody physically is around you, God is with you, especially when you're doing that which is in alignment with what He's wanting you to do. He's with you.
Yep.
So,
Because in
oh,
the
that was
darkest
powerful.
time, because the darkest time, he preparing you for your purpose and who you're trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's who he's preparing you for to be who you're trying to be because your purpose is important. Because I believe this is people waiting on you to get in position, waiting on for you to get in position to be the version of yourself so you can say it. I ain't saying save the world. I ain't saying save 10 million people. It's the people in your circle that's around you that you're going to impact and affect. It might be a bum on the street that you going to save his life, but you got to do that work. God is not going to do it for you. And matter of fact, God will sit there and wait for you.
Mm-hmm.
He will sit there and wait for you until you get ready. He's not gonna do the work. He already see he already see the enemy before they get anyway in your life, in your plan. But the thing is, you gotta do the work, you gotta be prepared for because it's gonna be it's anointing. Everybody has gifts and talents and anointing in their life. I believe that people they're scared of they're not scared of, they like to get the talent, but they don't like to do the work to cultivate it because it's work. It's just work. It's like when you're in a garden, nobody wants to deal with the weeds. Nobody wants to deal with that. Nobody wants to nobody want to make it look beautiful. None, you don't want to do that type of work. You can't just come out and just be like, oh, I'm here. No. And then I can say what I've been through. That's why I have the boldness I have today because of what I've been through and the pain I've been through. And it's not me just up here talking for no reason. We don't have time for that. We out here saving lives and impacting lives. And you can probably attest to this too. Like you've been in your podcast doing what you do. Like I'm not doing this for play. Ain't got time for that.
Right. Man, you dropping some gems on us this evening, man. And this is impactful stuff. This is powerful, messaging that we all need to hear and we all need to embrace. So, to my listeners, I hope you are really gathering the messages that are coming across here. This is real. This is real stuff. We have our own individual assignments that we're on, but there's some work that has to be put into it, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be handed to us, but the reward at the end will be well worth all the effort, all the energy that you put in, because again, the impact that you're going to have on the lives of, because that's the other thing about our purpose. It's not even about us. It's about who God is positioning us to be a bless,
Mhm.
and in our obedience and in our faith, He's going to bless us for the works that we're doing. But as you stated, there's somebody right now that's waiting to be blessed by us. They don't know who we are. We don't know who they are. But God is preparing us to connect with them. He's already predestined folks who we're going to be able to enter into their lives as perfect strangers, and, in some instances, and be a blessing to them, whether it's something that we say, whether it's something that we do for them, some way that we come alongside them, and doing it in the spirit of the way God would want us to do it. So great
And
stuff,
when you
great
and when
stuff.
you and when you and when you on purpose, like literally, God would start up, like He would start opening up doors. Like me, like even in the podcast era, I don't know. I mean, I haven't known nobody. I've been in for a little while now, but I'm meeting, I'm moving, I'm grooving, and half most of them been on. Like you got to start somewhere. So most of them
Hmm.
have been on Zoom, and it's okay. I'm okay with that. Then I did got my own show and different things like that in the studio and everything. You find your way through it because God not saying you have to be perfect. He's not saying that. He just said get started and do something. Because
Hmm.
the the richest people is in the graveyard. They have not wrote their book. They have not started a podcast. They have not done the thing that they were supposed to do on this earth. Not saying they was right or wrong, but it's like you want to live on purpose and in your purpose because I want to be empty when I leave this earth. I want to make sure I'm leaving a legacy of impact. It don't need, like I said, it don't have to be a big group of people, even if like you start a small group, a men's small group, a women's small group, whatever that is for you that's on your heart, just do it. Write a book, do a podcast, uh, or be the best person in your whatever your work or whatever you do. Be the best person that God is calling you to be, especially something you love and passionate about. But I will say this too: if God is telling you to move, move, because He will force you.
Yeah.
You don't want Him. He don't want you to he don't want you don't want him to move you because he gonna start closing doors. Because even when I was planning on moving, I was like, I'm trying to move everywhere, blah blah. I'm noticing doors shutting. I'm like, what in the world? Then he said, now I sat down, this guy, he said, move here, move to the place I'm supposed to be at. Everything opened up, flood. I'm like,
Hmm.
Lord, this is all I had to do. Even though I have my challenging moments, don't get me wrong, but it's easy when you know you in his plan. It's
Right.
so easy. When I mean easy, it's to the point like I know I have my challenge once, but I know he got it. Like I'm just like,
Hmm.
okay, here you handle it. And they come right on time when it need to. I'm like, I've been plenty of time when I move. I'm like, man, I need money for this and that. Next thing you know, money pop. I'm like, oh, okay, guy, you got it.
Got
Oh,
it.
you got
Right.
it. I'm
Right.
good. I'm good now. I'm good. I ain't even gonna worry about it no more. And then that's why I continue to put him in everything that I do. So yeah.
Love that. Love, and to your point, like you said, you can drag your feet if you want to. He's very patient, but if he sees that you're dragging your feet and he's like, "Look, okay, my patience is wearing thin,"
Yeah.
he will make your comfort zone uncomfortable
Yep. Yep.
to get you moving.
And
And
he'll let you stay there too. He'll be like, go ahead, you
uh-huh,
got it. I'll let you stay
uh-huh,
right on there and let you be uncomfortable and you wonder why nothing is not working. And
right.
that's not saying don't move out of his purpose. Of course, you once you pray about it and stuff, I believe when we pray, and this I'm gonna tell you what thing has really helped me. I write, I write things like I journal. So when I journal, I believe what journaling do for you, you write your emotions and feelings because the paper and pen does not have no no judgment zone. But I
Mm-hmm.
literally write out things I've seen you writing your own prophecy in a way. That's why I believe like when you pray and you read and write, but when you write a prayer to God, it's putting a stamp on a paper and you putting a signature on God. I pray for whatever it is. It could be a spouse, husband, whatever it is, or it could be job, career. Once you write it down, you put it on paper because it's in the Bible. Write it down and make it clear and plain. And when you do that, I've seen plenty of times when I've done that, things have came to pass. Things I wrote it might not come right then. It might come 5, 10 years later, but he has to prepare me and
Mm-hmm.
shift me towards it and challenge me, make sure I have the character in my heart. Make sure I have it in my heart. I'm ready to move into it because it's all about his timing either way. But while I'm in the time, I'm going to go ahead and move, do what I got to do so I can get there faster because even in my depression, I wanted it fast, quick, and not over with, but I wanted to get challenged and do what I had to do so I can get to where I'm at now. So when I did it, especially going through a divorce twice, I said, I can't do that length again, and it could take me out. So I said, okay, God, let me just go through this process. I submitted, put myself. I said, okay, God, I got you. I'm listening. I'm humble. I'm doing what I got to do. I'm gonna go through this process. If I got to go to therapy, if I got to speak to this person, and I literally sometimes I had to go through the hardest thing and have some conversations with people that done me wrong and all these things like that. I had to do the hard stuff, and I said,
Mm-hmm.
now, okay, now it's easy. I can do it easy, have conversations, different things like that. But it's all about who God wants you to become. That's the process. Who He wants you to become. And I know you can attest to this. I know things that you've been through, but God made you who you are, who you becoming now, and you feel so proud of yourself. You
Yes.
feel good about yourself. And matter of fact, half time people don't even have to pat you on the back. You pat your own self back. God, thank you, God. I'm glad you took me through this process. I'm glad I can talk now. I'm glad I got boldness. I'm glad I feel good about myself because you put this inside of me. And nobody can tell me that you didn't do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everything that you're talking about, I don't know if you paid attention to our title for the show, um, is you are speaking about growth season. That's what this is all about. We have our periods of growth seasons where, yeah, you got your season of challenge, but that season of challenge is a growth season to your blessing. And then guess what? When you get to that mark, then there's going to be a new season that opens up, and there's going to be some challenge that goes in that, but there's another
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for you to grow. And that's how you have to look at it. That's how you're looking at it through godly eyes, godly lenses, rather than worldly lenses, because the worldly lenses will tell you that these seasons that you're going through are again to make you miserable and downtrodden and all of that. No, these are setups. These are I'm leveling up to the next
Yeah,
thing that he has for me, and then I'm leveling up to that next thing. And the more battle tests that you get, and then leaning on him along the way, the stronger you become, the more he can open up to you because you've been growing, you've been prepared for it. You're now ready
yeah,
to receive it. You can handle it now.
yeah.
So yeah,
All
so
right.
that's
My
that's
question
good
is
stuff.
the question I want to ask you, are you ready for the battle? You getting battle tested. That's the thing.
Hmm.
You getting battle tested.
It's the
Are you
workout.
ready for the battle? Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
instead of it being the physical workout at the gym, it's the spiritual workout. It's building
Yep.
up your spiritual endurance. Your spiritual stamina. It's the same concept. It's just on a spiritual level. So you got to go through it to get to where he has for you to get to. So all of that is on spot on stuff, man. Spot on
Yep.
stuff. So if you had an opportunity to sit across from the younger version of yourself, if you could sit across the table from him, the brother who, when he was younger, he didn't know where he fit in, he was struggling with that, he was battling with his emotions and not feeling, he had a safe space to operate within, you know, what would you say to the younger Jonathan, or even what would you say to anybody that's tuning in right now that's feeling in that space right now where they don't feel like they fit in. They don't feel like that they know what their purpose is supposed to be. They don't know if they're hearing from God or not. Like what would be your words of wisdom, your words of advice to not only them but also to the younger version of you?
I would say to my younger version of myself, I would say, Jonathan, you got a purpose. You got a purpose, and it's okay not to be okay. But whatever your dream is, you go after it. Don't worry about what other people say, what they think, or how they feel about you. You go after it because the plan that God has for you is for you. Is for you, not for nobody else. Because you see the vision, you see the plan, and I have it for you. And I would say for anybody, like, you have a purpose, you have a plan stamped on your life because to be who you're supposed to be, and I know you can attest to this, it's at a cost. Everything is at a cost. And two things you have to do when it comes to a cost. You either have to let something go or give something up. You gotta let something go or give something up. And what I mean by let something go is because it's sometimes we holding on to something. It can be a mindset, it can be a habit that's hindering us to go to the next step or the next level. Or we either hold on to it or we're scared to leave it. And you can't be afraid of that, to go into something new and be open. That same thing when I have done dating, I've asked people, are you open to change or the possibility of change your mind? Because we hold on to old mindsets, we hold on to old habits. But are you fully ready to change? Because it could be the best thing that ever happened to change your perspective. So I'm not holding on to anything that God don't want me to hold on to. Or and I'm holding on to it, I'm holding on to it tight, but I have to also let things go too. It's twofold because once you let it go, now something good can come in. It's give and take with God. It's give and take. He gonna give you something, you gonna get something. You giving him something, it's because it's a relationship. It's back and forth. It's like having a conversation. We having a conversation back and forth. So it's certain things we have to let go. And the purpose on your life is God really wants the best for you, for your family, your life, and and for me has been my voice, my voice, because I feel like the enemy wanted to mute me. That's why he wanted to literally take me out. That's why he wanted to take me out because my voice is bold, and once you have a mantle on your life, it's going to be at a cost anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. But you got to know that God is there with you. You're gonna have people along the way, like you, whatever. Because even in Jesus' story, he had think about it. He had 12 disciples, but he only had three he was close to: Peter, James, and John. When he went to um, up to the mountain, them the only three that went with him because he knew they were close to him. They not gonna embarrass him. They got not gonna do none of this stuff. And then when he got to the mountain, he went up by himself and he did what he had to do so he can get poured into. Now he can come down and they walk down with him. So God gonna bring people along the way. You just gotta know who's who, but at the same time, know that this is your journey, and you can get through it. You can get through it. You got it. I'm telling you, you got it. You got it. You got it.
Love that. Love that. Again, just summing that up is like you said, there's some things along the way that you're just gonna have to let go of. Some things or some people that you got to let go of, and then there's some things that you're gonna have to be willing to sacrifice because those are not one and the same. They're two exclusively different things. Everybody can't go with you where you're trying to go, and and there's certain behaviors, there's certain patterns, there's certain mindsets that you can't take with you where God has you heading down. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a constant struggle. That's a constant battle, especially if you've gotten comfortable with
Yep.
having that thing or partaking in that thing or being around that setting. It's hard to let it go. And then there's the sacrifice. Are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to, to be a little bit inconvenienced? Are you willing to be a little bit uncomfortable to get to where God has you to be? Are you willing to be talked about? Are you willing to be ridiculed? Are you willing to be laughed at? Because people think you're crazy. How do you think you're going to accomplish that? No way you're going to be able to do that. Are you willing to take that and trust Him that He's not setting you up for failure, but that He's actually setting you up for a blessing? That it doesn't matter what the naysayers say, that it doesn't matter what people think of the opinions of the world, or who
Mm-hmm.
thought that you were incapable of accomplishing such a monumental feat. It doesn't matter. Are you willing to sacrifice the popularity status? Are
Yep.
you willing to sacrifice financially a little bit, to get to the big fortune, to a fortune that far exceeds any paycheck will ever pay you. All of those things are playing a role in all of that. And so I'm glad that you pinpointed that out about the letting go and the sacrifice, because they do go hand in hand as you're walking in your
And
purpose.
also too, you make sure you it always is sacrificing. Make sure you hold on to some things that you can keep to you. Like in my missing my story, I'm holding on to quotes and what God has said to me to keep me going too. Don't get me wrong, like it is sacrificing everything to become who you're supposed to be, but hold on to some things that's precious to you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because them other times is you might get some. dark times or whatever, challenging moments, but just making sure like, I got this, you know, because you don't, because what people would do is, I've learned this too. I had some cousins I was talking to, and they was like kind of draining. So I said, my quote was, the quote said, "If people are draining you, stop giving them the straw."
Mm, yeah, love that. Love because sacrifice doesn't mean neglect.
Yes.
Don't confuse those. Sacrifice doesn't mean neglect. Giving of yourself doesn't mean denying, again, self-love, self-worth, sometimes we go on this adventure where, "Oh, I'm doing everything for everybody and all that, whatever." But as you said in your illustration, but am I giving them the straw to drain me dry? Am I giving them, am I allowing them to tap me out? Am I basically, I'm teaching them how to treat me, and I'm accepting, neglect. I'm accepting denial, not because I'm sacrificial, but because I'm not caring enough about myself. I'm not, again, goes back to what I shared with you earlier about that healthy selfishness. You hold on to that. You affirm yourself. You love on you. You spoke very mightily about that. I tell myself, good job. I tell myself, I'm good. I'm important. I matter. I'm worthy. I'm Yeah. If you don't do it, who else will?
Yeah.
Or I should say, are you going to rely on somebody else to do it? And if they don't do it, if they let you down and don't give you
Hmm.
those words of affirmation, does that
Right.
mean you just go without them?
Right.
No, you got to speak.
Yeah.
You got to speak that life to you, and of course, know, of course, obviously that the ultimate, source, God Himself, is always going
Yeah.
to love you like no other. But He doesn't have a problem with you showing that love to yourself as well. Just confirming your love because you understand the royalty line that you come from. You know,
Yeah. And I would say, I'm gonna say the biggest thing. This is for everybody. Remember, you are enough. You are enough. And the reason why I'm saying you're enough, because sometimes we don't feel like we're enough. We don't feel like we have the capacity. We don't feel like where we're trying to go at that we can't get there. But remember, you are enough to get there. You are enough. You're the right person for the right job, for the right position that God has for you. But you are enough. Like, I just want to say, that's on my heart to say, you are enough. Even when I spoke to myself, I said, I am enough. And I remember being in a therapy session, and a quick story. I was in a therapy session, and I was working with this guy. He was helping me navigate something. I had a rough day or whatever going through my session. He said, pause. I said, what's up? And I'm telling him other stuff's going on. He said, what I'm hearing is, when you growing up, you felt like you wasn't enough. And I literally cried in my session, literally cried, because I was like, I never felt enough. I'm doing, like go back to my story. I'm doing things for my mom, going to school, trying to do all these things. I did not feel enough. And I didn't feel seen and heard too, but I did not feel like I was enough to fit in the classroom. I didn't feel like enough that I'm doing all this stuff for my mom. I didn't feel enough to fit in society. I didn't feel enough as being a black man. I just didn't feel like I was enough to even just, express myself. So yeah, you are enough.
yeah, that's spot on. You, like you said, you are enough. You are enough because God says so, not because
Yep.
the world said so, not because social media said so, but because He said so. He created you, and when He did it, He made no mistakes. He made no flaws, no imperfection. He created you exactly what you were supposed to be. You are enough. So that's a great way to close that out. Great way. My brother, man, this has been an awesome conversation. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. You have far exceeded my expectations. I knew it was going to be good, but you've done that and then some, man. Been a blessing to me, been a blessing to my listeners, and I so appreciate that. But as is customary here on the Blessings in the Streets podcast, before I let you go, we do want to take out an opportunity to celebrate you, to love on you, to acknowledge you. So if you got anything professionally and or personally going on or coming up down the road, we want to know all about that so we know how to support it, how to keep in touch with you. If nothing more, just how to keep you lifted up as God is using you and walking in your purpose. So what do the people need to know that Jonathan Mayo got going on that we need to be connected with and keeping locked in on?
Right now, I have my book out. It's called More Than a Barber Becoming Him. It's on Amazon now. I've got that, man. It's a good read, good inspirational. And I got my podcast called Black Men Speak on Instagram and YouTube. So I got that going on, and yeah, that's what I have going on right now. But my book is my main thing that I have going on. Actually, I got it right here. It's called Black
Awesome.
Men Speak. So yeah, this been my baby. So and more books to come, and just see me, and I'll getting on other podcasts and stuff like that. So I want to spread this word of black men and just expressing ourselves, talking about mental health, relationships, and just all anything in between, especially relationships, mental health, and entrepreneurship too. So that's where my heart is. I'm all about our black men because I've been through some stuff, and I just want to help be inspired. And my book is more about um, more than the because you're more than just for me I was more than just a barber. So and like we have other roles and titles because it's two things. We have titles that people put on us and titles we put on ourselves, but you're more than that. I know it was out at the time when I was uh, married. I'm a father. I was a husband. I was more than just a barber. I'm a podcaster. And when I get in purpose and things like you find out more when you get into God and things like that. So that's it's a little small inspirational read. And then my podcast is Black Men Speak. Um, it's where a safe space where all men can talk about, especially us. We can talk about mental health, relationships, entrepreneurship, and anything else in between we want to talk about. We can share how we feel and what thing, but it's a healthy podcast that we can talk about these things and really go there and navigate it so people um, especially in relationships, women can see there's healthy men out here. We're not, it's healthy men out here. We're talking about good stuff, and we're working on ourselves, our emotional, mental, physical. We're working on our whole body, holistic stuff, and not just one part. Because sometimes you gotta watch out for some podcasts too. Not shade nobody. We gotta watch out for them because not everybody is talking about healthy stuff, and that's what God has put in my heart to talk about. It might be different, might be out of ordinary, but it's people. Like I said, it's gonna be people that's gonna want to be in this space and talk about it. So that's my podcast, and yeah,
And so, if people want to keep in touch with you on social media, what's the best way for them to follow you and
oh
keep
yeah,
up with any latest happenings that you got going
yeah.
on?
On my social media is on YouTube is the capital BLACK capital SPEAKMAN on YouTube, and on Instagram is BLACK underscore SPEAK underscore MAN. So that's what reach me at. I'll be there, and I'm be dropping some stuff. So got some other stuff coming soon, and I'm just rocking out. I'm enjoying this process, man. It's been good. Meeting great people like you, like for real. Like I appreciate it. I'm to be on this platform. Even though we met on the airways, but it's like a brother to me now. Like we done had a conversation. We here now, so you stuck with me now.
Yep.
I don't know how you gonna
We
get me.
here.
We here now,
We
so
we good. We here. That's how it goes down. That's what it's all about, man. So, and again, I don't believe that encounter online was by accident.
yeah,
That was divine, intended for us to connect, intended to make this moment happen, and and this is a relationship that'll be ongoing, and I just want you to know, brother, you are welcome to come on the podcast in the future. Because you definitely have a lot to offer, and like I said, we couldn't even get all the conversation
yeah,
in one show of things that we could talk about that are necessary conversations to have. But I'm loving what you're doing, and I just pray for God's favor over all your works and in every aspect of your life, man. And you just keep on walking boldly and strongly and in your purpose and impacting and change as He set you up to do. So I'm excited for that. And to my listeners, hey, you know how to tap into him now. Pick up his book. Keep, follow him along. You be of support, and if nothing more, just keep him lifted up
yeah,
in prayer because the enemy is still at work. The enemy is
yeah,
still looking for ways to knock men like himself, off pace, off track. Keep him distracted because he doesn't like him doing the work that he's doing, but he's doing a godly work, and God's going to cover him, regardless. So keep him in your prayers and be sure to support and of course I also have my book out right now, Blessings in the Street Special Edition. So if you haven't picked up your copy of that, You can catch it on Amazon as well, or you can go to Mr. Joseph B. Roberts.com to pick up your book as well. So, hey, you got some authors in the building, you got some podcast hosts in the building. We some brothers on the move trying to do things, trying to make an impact. So,
Mm-hmm.
we appreciate your support and your encouragement and your prayers. It is definitely well needed and again greatly appreciated. So, and for my listeners, if you've enjoyed our podcast this evening, if you enjoy the work that we're doing here and being transparent and being vulnerable and sharing our stories, looking to uplift and encourage, please subscribe. Please share, please comment, please like, because this is what the Blessings in the Streets podcast is all about: encouraging, uplifting, being vulnerable, being transparent, not coming to you because we're perfect, because we got it all figured out, but making sure that you understand that, hey, we all go through our challenges. We all go through our moments of adversity. It's not a matter of if, but when. But at the end of the day, you know, what ultimately gets us through is having that relationship with God. And if you don't currently have that relationship, if you don't know what that looks like, what that means, I'm here to tell you that today is a mighty fine day to make that decision. And I promise you it'll be the greatest decision that you ever make. He loves you unconditionally. He wants nothing but the best for you. He wants nothing more to be in an intimate, close, tight knit
Mm-hmm.
relationship with you. Trust Him, lean on Him, step out on faith, and I promise you, He will not lead you astray. He loves you that much, and He has so much in store for you, so much to give you, not only to bless you personally, but to equip you to be a blessing to other people. So don't miss out. Don't pass this thing by. Don't take it lightly. It's a real thing. We're not telling you something that we heard. We're telling you something that we know from personal experience, firsthand. So with that said, remember here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and I thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you keep
It's
fighting
a
that good
pleasure.
fight. You keep hanging in there, depending
Yeah.
upon Him, relying upon His strength, relying upon His encouragement. He will give it all to you and then some. He will not let you down. He is undefeated and will remain that way always. He loves us, wants nothing but the best for us. Don't pass Him by. He's always there, even in your darkest seasons of life. So until next time, you take care of yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you again on our next broadcast. Have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah.